It's just something so incredible about working as part of a team, and the group of people you're in are, among the very best in the world at what they do. So working on Star Wars, the puppeteers, the makers, the gaffers, the rig, like everyone on that team was incredible at their job, and just being like, one of 300 people on set doing your specific thing. Having a team of people put the suit on you and then going off and doing that like small aspect of a massive project is really exciting.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And today we have on the show Hugh Purves. Welcome to the show, Hugh.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. For anybody who doesn't know, Hugh Purves is a one-of-a-kind puppeteer and just maker. He's the creator behind puppetthings.co.uk or puppetthings.com and is a puppeteer in his own right on things you know and love, like Star Wars and Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and we are so excited to have him here to talk with us. Hugh Purves, welcome to Puppeteers.
I'm glad to be on. I've been craving it for a long time because you had my friend Katie on really early on.
And yeah, you know Katie?
Yeah, I did a job.
That's how I first connected with him.
Oh,
That's
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I told you years ago. But
fair enough.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you about so many things. I think you are a creative force in puppetry that everyone's got to watch out for. Because I think you think about things in a very different way. You're very interested in using different alternative materials, which I'm excited to talk about. I'm super excited to talk a lot about puppetthings.com and all the things you offer for people, but I really, really am excited to talk about Star Wars first. But before we talk about all of that, I want to know, what are you working on right now?
So I've literally just finished today shooting a sitcom.
No way.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I was in a music video recently with the band Easy Life.
Oh, I think I did see that.
I was a big, massive goldfish, and that goldfish is in the sitcom, so they called me back in. And so I've been in a very, very hot, sweaty suit for a few days. It's a very weird puppet. I've not seen anything like it. I had to design it in half an hour and then build it in less than a week for this first time round on the shoot. So it's controlled. So it's a big costume, big head. My elbow is in the lower jaw, and I'm holding onto a handle here that controls the eyes, and that's how it talks, flapping my elbow down.
Oh my gosh.
And so in the music video for 3 minutes, it's all right because you're kind of like lip syncing along and then it's okay. But then when you're doing multiple day shoots, the body does not enjoy it. It is a profoundly challenging experience.
That's great. You said your hands are controlling the eyes, so there's some sort of mechanism you made in the eyes too?
Yeah, there's a little two bits of wire because I had to sort of tear it out at the last minute because I built everything sort of to fit with each other, and the eyes are slightly off angle, so the wires have to be a very specific length to work. And then the day before the shoot, the producer said it looks too sad, it looks too miserable because it's just been in a car crash. The director wanted it to look upset. And they said, no, it looks too miserable. The label will need it changed. The label needed it to look happy. And so I ripped out the eyes and I put them back in. And I said, it can't blink anymore. Is that okay? And they went, no. And I went, all right. And then,
oh my gosh.
So
you said the fish was in a car accident?
So in the video, the fish is in the car accident with the lead singer.
Oh my god!
The video is really cool. Like we're waist deep in water, and then there's an upturned car in the pool with us, and we're just singing along. And then in this music video, I'm also distressed actually in the story. I faint in the first 5 minutes, which if you're in a big puppet, you go down hard.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
The morning of the shoot.
How did that project come along?
I think it was just they really, really digged the puppet when it was made. They didn't know what it was going to look like because they didn't have a design or an idea. Really, they knew it had to be a big goldfish. And then they thought, oh wow, it's actually way more expressive than we thought. And then they wrote it into the script for this like weird sitcom pilot that they want to do to promo their album. And
that's so great.
Oh, wow, I've never heard of a sitcom to promote a musical recording. I've seen it the other way around. That
they do a lot of interesting things in the UK.
Well, fair
right? I mean, look at the people we got. Yeah.
Very true.
Oh my
That's
God,
very
Phil
true.
Fletcher and now Hugh Purves.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping. I kept saying to production, like, when this is picked up by Netflix, I'd love a rebuild on this puppet. You know,
And some
That's what I was
residuals,
thinking.
right?
Yeah.
some residuals.
Yes.
I was gonna say, pretty quickly you probably realize, like, I gotta change this, I gotta change that, like all these revisions of, yeah, like you said, when it gets picked up.
Wanting
Well,
to make it better, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always like, as soon as I build anything, I do it and I go, oh, it's useless. I hate it. I need to remake everything. It's very rare that I enjoy a puppet I build.
And you know what? I like that we're saying that too, because that's exactly what I experienced. And I have a feeling that some people do that, and they use that to hold themselves back and to not post it, and to feel like their work isn't good enough. And I think that's something that a lot of artists kind of struggle with. And I always encourage people to just put more work out there. But one thing that you said about this project that really just hooked me was that the client not having a design and whatnot, which isn't totally uncommon, but it's always. Do you like that kind of a project, or is it a little bit of a stress to you in some way?
I really like it when I get to riff as I'm building, and just kind of build what I feel and like put things in as I'm doing it and as I think it works. So when someone gives you completely open canvas, you know, with some limitations, like it has to be, you know, full-size man puppet, whatever. I really like it. I really like that kind of creativity. When someone gives me a, you know, quote-unquote finished design, I'll build it and I won't, you know, it'll be done and that's okay. But rarely, you know, I put it in quotes, I don't think anyone's ever given me a puppet design that is a puppet design.
Yeah.
They've given me like a picture of a great animated character, and then to translate that into a design is this whole separate process. And so they say things like, "Oh, it looks too fat," and it's like, "Yeah, because it's 3D now. It used to be flat, and now it's a body." And so you
made a like an incredibly thin neck that now has to like have a whole hand go through it for it to work. And there's all those proportion changes that may have to happen.
So it's it's always a bit of a back and forth with the client. So the more space they give me, the happier I am, until I just get to say, like, here's the thing, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. As long as it's not like retroactive, like, oh well, it didn't come out how we expected. Like, you didn't have expectations. Where do they come from now?
And it's got to be sort of nerve-wracking too, especially for something like a music video, which oftentimes can be so stylized that, you know, you show up with something and they could very easily be like, oh, does not match the aesthetic that we want to go for. Like, go do it over again or something like that, or rip out the eyes for a fourth time.
I mean, what's quite nice is when, you know, you say, like, you have a week to build this, and you kind of have to go, then it will be what it is, you know. Mm-hmm. We're on set now, this is the puppet. If it doesn't work for your vision, change your vision, sorry, you know, or give me another 2 weeks.
And I get paid 100% deposit, just so you know.
But going back to your point, Adam, about like insecurity or, you know, not liking the thing you make, I find that as a really good source of energy to move on with something and do more stuff. Like, some people, I think it kind of spirals them down and they don't want to do anything and they feel really put down. But I kind of love that feeling of, oh, I don't like this, but I know I could make it better. And next time I'm going to do this, or like on the next puppet, I'm going to change this or use this other material. Like, that's what I really like about picking apart my work, because there's always something you can improve. I don't think anyone's ever made the perfect puppet.
Absolutely, too. But, you know, the thing to add to that is social media, for some people, makes it something into something they can't handle, because then it's somewhat public for people, you know. And you know, and I take that and I turn that into energy, because sometimes people are like, you know, that puppet you made, this one here, I don't like that. I was like, really? Me neither. We've got something in common. Yeah, I would do it differently now. Thanks for reminding me. I appreciate it.
And in some cases you have.
Yeah,
already.
sometimes I have. Yeah, sometimes I have. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I think of it just more as a documentation of my growth, you know, over my time as a puppet builder, and just putting it out into the world. Yeah. I got pretty thick skin. I don't really care what people think.
Well, there's an element of, like, if you respect the person's opinion, then a criticism is just good advice, and you can work on it and, like, take it as it is. And if you don't respect their opinion, well, then it's nothing. It's just some meaningless shit from a nobody. It sounds harsh, but you sometimes you get criticism of like, oh, I don't like the color. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you don't like. It'd be nice if you did like the color, but you're not the one paying me. You're just some kind of rando. Or
And again, even with client work too, like I recommended a different color, and they said this is the color they want because this is their brand. I was like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like those amazing "I told you so" moments.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Just to let you know, if I take the eyes out of this puppet, it's not going to blink. And you go, oh yeah, that's fine, we understand. And then you get on set, it doesn't blink. No, it doesn't. And it's not going to blink today.
No, that was a choice that you made. Yes.
Why is this puppet so pink? Because you asked for it to be 20% more pink.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Oh, that is a difficult thing,
goodness.
because with your phone camera, you take a picture and you send it to them. It's like, by the way, it's not that color. It is
Yes.
much bluer. I recommend you come here and look at it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, because there's screens, even not even the picture, even whatever device they're looking at it on could change the way that it looks.
Loving where this is all going, but as Adam said, we're really interested in hearing about.
I really want to talk about Star Wars, but should we actually start like how we normally start? Like
I
from the
suppose we
yeah, we
should.
probably should. Okay.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah. How did your journey in puppetry begin?
So it didn't begin properly. So I'll give you the preface. The preface was
What's the proper way to get into puppetry?
I have
It always begins with a mistake.
Being
one
a
way or
relative
another.
of Jim Henson, right?
but like I had glove puppets when I was a little tiny boy, but it was never like in my life. So there are some people like Warwick Brownlow Pike who had from birth came out of the womb, said I'm going to be a puppeteer, and just kind of nailed it his entire life. I had them, but I didn't really sort of mind about them, and I watched the Muppets and I liked it, but I never thought of them as puppets. They were just kind of characters. And then I started doing some like theatre-y stuff when I was growing up, and I was watching a lot of Art Attack, which is a UK program, like paper mache and things, making stuff at home. And I used to get really involved in that, taking things apart, seeing how they worked. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to do maths at university, and that was that. And then I did maths. But while I was there, I got more involved in the TV and theatre, and I was like, oh, this is good, isn't it? I actually do enjoy this. And then when I was just about to kind of commit my life to mathematics, I watched a play by the River People. It was called Lily Through the Dark, and it had like real puppets in, like theatrical, puppets telling a story rather than just like Punch and Judy. And I just went, yep, that's the way I want to tell stories. That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And then from then on, I did a workshop with River People, and I started making my own puppets because I wanted to play with them. So I kind of built up the skills as a puppet maker, emailed some people, did some work experience, did a course called the Curious School of Puppetry, which is sort of training for professionals by professionals in the UK. And then from there, I was like, I'm just going to give it a go. And if I can pay my rent with puppetry, then great, I'm going to try it. And if all else fails, I'll just go and be a mathematician. And then luckily, I just carried on paying my rent with puppetry. Oh. But the most amazing thing about the whole like arc of that part of my life was on my first day on Solo, Star Wars film, the person who wrote and starred in Lily Through the Dark, Claire Harvey, was on set as a puppeteer in the same thing as me. And I don't,
my gosh.
and I immediately, I walked into that green room and I could see, amazing, huge Star Wars sets, like incredible, like 200 people at the top of their career doing the best job in the world. And then I saw Claire Harvey. I was like, sorry. I don't know if you know this, but you're the reason I'm a puppeteer. And we're friends now. Like, we've worked on Dark Crystal together and the other Star Wars films, and like, she's really an incredible person. But there was that like crystallizing moment of, my first big feature film, working on the same job as the person that was the reason I was there at all. It was really cool.
Oh, that's such a great full circle. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's really. I didn't realize you started with Solo. Now I have other thoughts to talk about once we get on to Star Wars. That's really cool. No, but that's really cool. I like. I think most people tend to find puppetry as a maker or as a performer, and then obviously a lot of people end up doing both just because for multiple reasons, mainly aside from liking both, it opens up more job opportunities. What do you if you only could do one, which one do you think you would do?
No, I can't answer it. They're both they're both so much part of each other for me. You kind of performing a character and building a character. The money.
Well, what about? Go ahead.
The money's better in performing, I think. If you have if you have the big jobs and like a continuous work, but I think, my time is really split half and half, and I really like that, and I like building a character and then going on performing it. It's such a cool part of it. Because sometimes the puppet tells you what it is as as you're still inside it making foam, and you go, oh yeah, I've got the character already. I don't even need the fur.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. Yeah, and that also brings to my head that working on projects where you built the puppets, obviously that has a lot of rewards to it, even as an artist. But also working on things like Star Wars, where you're using these, probably I can only imagine, these insanely awesome puppets. Of course, with Dark Crystal as well. Like, what an experience that is. Just like having these things in your hand that are just going to be a part of cinematic history in a way that would be very difficult to achieve with your own work.
It's just something so incredible about working as part of a team, and the group of people you're in are, among the very best in the world at what they do. So working on Star Wars, the puppeteers, the makers, the gaffers, the rigger, like everyone on that team was incredible at their job. And just being like, one of 300 people on set doing your specific thing, having a team of people put the suit on you and then going off and doing that like small aspect of a massive project is really exciting. And just the opportunity to kind of wander around the workshop and be like, what kind of foam is that? What kind of wire have you used on this bit of the puppet? It's
Yeah, it's got to be a great learning experience because you do get all those insights into different materials and things like that. But there's also got to be an element, too, of like you're given a puppet by Henson and you're like, oh, I would have preferred if it was done that way, or I would have done that differently. And not that way isn't valid, but we talk about it all the time. There are so many different ways to accomplish the same thing, and puppeteers have their preference.
Well, I remember my audition for Dark Crystal, they put a puppet on my hand. And it was the best puppet I've ever had on my hand, ever. It was just a kind of Henson's Muppet covered in fur, and it was the most comfortable thing. And I was like, my God! And it was like lifting up a cloud. And then the puppets on Dark Crystal were like lifting up a breeze block. So, they were really heavy. And there was actually part of the thing that led to some of the puppet thing stuff was the rod handles on Dark Crystal were made in a certain way that you kind of clip in and then gaffer tape round. And I was looking at them like, I think I can make them a bit better. I think I can make them so you don't have to gaffer them. And then I started working on that kind of 3D printed clipping in kind of vibe. But it is interesting how much Hollywood gets away with kind of scrappy edges on some of the stuff. Like, it is kind of heartening because you think everything's perfect and then you kind of see it close up and go, oh goodness no.
You see the side that's not shown on camera, and it's like, oh God.
Right.
That's why it's looking left and not right.
Yes, that's right.
Well, you see the side that is shown to camera, but 400 feet away, so it's just kind of painted with huge brushstrokes. And although there was a great moment on Rise of Skywalker where we were doing a rehearsal and they were still painting the set, and it was just a guy with like almost a fucking bin bag of brown paint and a stick, just like slapping it onto the wall, and then he'd do it for 5 minutes, and then you'd kind of look again and it'd be a perfect tree that he'd painted photorealistic, and then he'd just kind of go to the one and start slapping paint up again. All right.
Oh my gosh.
That's
really cool.
Incredible.
There's some incredible people out there.
So how did that come about, getting on Star Wars?
So I met Brian Herring, who is one of the BB-8 puppeteers, and a talk he did at the Curious School of Puppetry the year after I went. They have a thing called Soup Nights, where they make loads of soup and then you hear a talk from a puppet professional. and I was doing his PowerPoint for him. I was doing his tech. And we both, luckily, got there about an hour, 2 hours early for the talk. So we were just sitting together, kind of chatting. And I kind of knew who he was. I knew he was a Star Wars guy, and he was also in Spitting Image and done a million other things. And I had a glass of wine, and within the first half an hour speaking to him, I said, "Can I send you a CV?" Which, don't do. That's a very cringe thing to do.
To the Americans, that's the resume, right?
A resume.
Yeah, okay.
It's also a resume in America.
Well, I know. I mean, for the Muggles, that's
Fair.
just make it clear.
But I said, "Can I send you a CV?" And he went, "I can't make any promises. Send it to me. I can't make any promises." And then 2 months later, I got an email saying, "Can you come? We're doing a big group scene with loads of puppeteers. Can you come on and be one of the puppeteers?" And then from there, I was, on those Star Wars books. I wasn't a complete bastard when I went. And so they brought me back, and I think it's also because I was the right height and width for a creature they wanted to do in the next film. So you sometimes it's just I'm 5'9.5". If I were 5'10", absolutely not. Luckily, I just kind of
Yeah. Reminds me, I hear people talk about working at Disney. The costume characters like, "Oh, you're Goofy height. Oh, you're Mickey height. You're Chipmunk height." It's like, oh my gosh, yeah. That's how they kind of categorize people. That's so interesting, though. What is there any where would we see you in these movies so people can kind of point out when the next time they watch it, they're like, "Oh, there's Hugh's in there in that shot."
You won't see me in the theatrical release of Solo because I was cut, but I am in a deleted scene on YouTube in an eel barrel, where I'm one of the eels that splashes Emilia Clarke in the face. That's this guy. Like that. Because a lot of what we shot was shot on the two previous directors, because it swapped to Ron Howard halfway through.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
So we did loads and loads of stuff in one scene, and then they completely changed that scene. So it was the Mother Proxima scene, the big worm in the tank. The first version of it had loads and loads of worms in the pool, so we were all in the pool sliding around with our worms. But they changed it so it's just her. But in Rise of Skywalker, I'm in a few bits of it. In the Resistance, anytime they're in the Resistance base, you'll see my character who looks like a big pig mole thing in a yellow jacket, kind of wandering around, and going at people in the background. And then also on the desert planet with the Aki on Pisana, the little babies. So I'm the fat one at the front.
Nice.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's
We'll
so
put those
cool.
up on the screen for people.
Right.
Yeah, I'll send you
Awesome.
some pictures of the very frames. I've got them all. There's also some really nice behind the scenes stuff with me in the suit where I'm just kind of a little boy. I'm so thrilled to be on a Star Wars film, and I see a camera near me and I start doing karate because that's what little boys do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just can't even Star Wars is such a huge part of my life growing up, and brought in because of my dad and stuff. I can't even imagine working on something like that, and just oh my gosh. Did your family like Star Wars a lot too, or was it just kind of
No,
you?
it was just me. I watched Phantom Menace when I was 6, and then ever since then I've been 6 every time I watched a Star Wars film. So I just...
Oh, so you started with the prequels,
I started with the prequels, and then I watched the old ones. These are slow.
Oh my
I did the same thing.
I just love it.
I'll say, I think I was born at the perfect age, considering when the prequels came up, because my dad did Star Wars a lot. I did grow up watching the old ones, but I was at the perfect age where I thought Phantom Menace was the coolest.
Yeah,
and
man.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. My favorite character was Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, same here.
I was
Same here.
at that age. I was at that exact age. And then, but again, too, gosh, what a part of my life that was. I remember my dad took us to the midnight showings of those for all those when I was in middle school. It's just gosh, what memories.
I used to hang around on Wikipedia online, reading about all the different forms of lightsaber combat, the different kinds of X-wing. I was that kind of nerd, and I still am. It was just, and when I was on Solo, actually, Mark Hamill came to visit, and
Oh my god!
And he just kind of so we're in the in a wetsuit in the pool, kind of freezing cold, shaking our tentacles, and then he kind of creeped up behind me. It was like, wow, cool. And I was like, do you think it's funny how you can't tell anyone what you're doing? And I said, "Oh, I don't think they'd believe me if I did." He went, "Haha, yeah, right." And then for the rest of the year, I was like,
And then you handed him your CV.
and then I was like, "I made Mark Hamill say, haha." I did it.
Is that on your CV?
He's Luke Skywalker, and I made him have a little laugh.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
We reached out to him. Do we want to try to get him on?
We've tried.
Yeah, we'd love to. We'd
yeah,
love to have
it
him
would
on
be
to
amazing.
talk about those working with puppets. It's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so how, we just talked about how you were a fan of Star Wars. How does being in them change your relationship with, at the very least, the new ones coming out, but even like, does it recontextualize the original ones for you too?
I think when I watched even the ones I was in, I watched them as a fan. I watched them as like a midnight showing with 2 cans of beer and some popcorn, and just like watched it as a big Star Wars guy. I did cry when I saw my name in the credits in that special blue font. I was like, "Oh, it's me!" But it was. I think I still really like watching films, even though I know how the trick is done. By the same reason, like, I really like watching magic tricks and then learning how they did the magic tricks. Like, it doesn't take anything away from it for me. I just think the whole storytelling thing that film can do, like, every part of it is just as thrilling to me. So, I did a shoot last week where I was just in a green suit, kind of waving some stuff around, like a classic kind of modern puppetry job. But I was still, like, that for me was the same level of excitement as doing the character stuff, because it's all just like, aren't we all just doing something together? Aren't we having a lovely time making a film that someone's going to watch, and someone's not going to give a shit about any of us, but they're going to love that film? It's just cool. Like, I don't think it.
Yeah.
I don't think it has changed my watching habits, knowing that I'm in it, or like knowing how things are done, or the little trivia that you get from like, oh, I know, here's some tea that he was an absolute bastard. It's just.
Were you?
Right.
I'm trying to remember. Were you in? I know you did Solo. Were you in all 3 of the rest of them? You said, or was
No,
it
I was just in Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, Rise of Skywalker.
Solo and Rise of Skywalker, so the most recent 2 that came out.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Wow.
Got it.
Holy cow.
And I guess there's got to be something pretty surreal. Like when we do small puppet projects, we're almost never doing any kind of digital correction to them outside of some color correcting.
Yeah.
But like if we are deleting rods, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
But versus being on a set where you're like all in green, the thing that you're watching on your playback monitor is completely different from what's going to end up on the television or on the cinema screen. So that's got to be pretty cool too, to see. It's not like you've gotten a sneak peek particularly. Like, you're seeing one element of a much larger thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Dark Crystal was augmented later with CG. So what we saw on the set was, either it was completely green, with green backgrounds, or it was, they added like Skeksis tongues and frowns and blinks and stuff. So that was actually pretty cool to see, because
Yeah.
seeing what they did with the blinks and the kind of extra little bits of emotion that they can add in post. I think that's a really cool use of CG. I think, is going practical first and then kind of layering that on top, because it does change things.
Right. Yeah, I really feel, I'd love to know your thoughts too. Like, we seem to be at such a wonderful sweet spot of the practical marrying with the digital. Like, because for a time when all 3 of us would have been growing up, it kind of seemed like we're done with puppetry and everything's just going to be digital. And now to be able to take the physical thing that was in the space with the actors and then adding those little details and wrinkles and tongues and blinks and stuff, and to make it all seamless. Like, I think it's it feels like the pinnacle of what both forms do at their best.
I think so. And I think having an object on set helps so many departments. Not just the kind of looks of it in the final film, but like when camera need to frame up, they know exactly how big the thing is going to be. They know how it's going to be lit. They know an actor can react off it, even if it's just, like in Fantastic Beasts, it's just kind of a head on a stick. There's still something to reference in terms of scale. And I think, the puppeteer has a role for a long time, I think. Again, the shoot I did last week, because I was on set and I was in greens, when they were trying to do these weird, like, ghostly CG elements, I was like, I could just just carry it. Like, I'll just walk it from there to there. If it needs to be over there, I'll just do it. You know, you have a person doing that. You know exactly how fast they're walking. You know when they need to move in. Like, everything becomes much easier. A trained set of hands that can do something repeatable and reliably is invaluable.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting, you're talking about the green screen stuff. I know to some extent that's kind of going away as well. I'm sure you're familiar. I can't remember what it's called, but the technology that they're using to create the backgrounds for like Mandalorian, where it's just a big projected screen. Have you seen? I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
That's pretty cool.
Like, that's, in a way, again, that has, it's a little bit of both, right? Because, yeah, in a way, you do miss having that tactile set that was built by a man slapping brown paint on the wall, making a perfect tree in 2 seconds. But then again, here's what I think. At least from an actor perspective, you're just not staring at a green ball. You're not just having a green background behind you. You can actually really get a little bit more into it than you otherwise would. I wonder if that's just going to be, for the most part, the future of that too, when the green screen goes away completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of interesting, even with like realizing CG characters live, you know, based on mocap. You know, not like picture perfect, but something, you know, you can kind of see it come together really quickly. Yeah. And I think that's
like a Snapchat filter.
Yeah, that's gonna
essentially.
I think it's gonna change. I think a lot of lower budget projects are going to be much bigger in scope once that technology becomes a bit more feasible.
Yeah, wait till it's all gone. I think we've talked about it a little bit, but they're coming out with technology. Obviously, like deepfakes is one thing, but like for deepfakes, you still have to be able to match the voice, get like a voice actor. But they have technologies that are like putting people's voices together now too, and I think we're talking about this before too. How about like scripts will be essentially kind of like with the data that they're getting from Netflix and Disney Plus and stuff, be getting people's real-time watch time where they rewind on every single second of every frame. Like they have the data to probably create the most like virally perfect or targeted to a specific audience type of script and show. And I just feel like there's going to be a point where we're going to have something almost completely just like I don't even know what the word is. Like I want to say just augmented. Yeah, augmented, right? Oh my god. I mean,
it's a great dystopian setting in it that every single person has their own like custom content that only they ever see, and it's generated by an AI.
Yes.
You know exactly what they want to see at any given moment. Like it'll be a cool book. I think there's still something to be said for like just a lot of stuff in films happens because the filmmakers are having a good time. And I think that's going to continue for a while. Like a lot of jokes are just Melissa McCarthy being very funny and doing whatever she wants. You know,
True,
and there's so much of that. Like,
really
wouldn't that be cool if we just did that? And they'd be like, yeah. And then it's a really great moment in the film because it's just people having a good time and relating and finding that like common feeling about a moment. Like, yeah, we all agree that'd be cool. Let's do that. And then because 20 people on set thought of it, probably more people in the audience are going to enjoy it. I think there's
you'd miss what a performer really brings to it.
Yeah,
like right. There's a reason why you have Jim Carrey in something, right? And,
So
for that example,
I think that maybe it'll be split into two, like Morlocks and the other people in the H.G. Wells book. You know, there'll be some people who only watch their specific like trash content that the AI generates, and then some other people who are like, I just want to watch Adam Krutinger have fun with a puppet. That's all I ever want to see. Yeah.
Well, in a way that is it with social media, right? There's some people that like will only watch movies and TV shows, and there's some people that are all about watching things on YouTube, things that are for the most part, self-produced and things like that. And yeah, just so interesting. Yeah, what a world we're going into. And it's what I love about it is I think it makes a lot more opportunity for more people, but you just got to hustle to do it, right? You just got to keep putting things out there. Yeah, that's crazy. There's one more thing I want to ask you about Star Wars, though. I was wondering, just because, Star Wars, especially this last series, was very, to the Star Wars nerds, very controversial, right? And I just out of curiosity, Did you get much? You didn't get any like hate from people, did you?
No, I only got the fans. I think in order to find who I am, you have to be a pretty big Star Wars nerd. And you know what I mean? If you're going to the labor of finding out who I am and what I did, then you're probably a fan. But I think, in general, I mean, it might sound a bit coy and naive. I think it's nicer to like things. And I think there's lots of bad films out there, but I've never seen a film where I couldn't find something that I liked.
Oh, of course.
You know, and so if you focus on that, there's always other people who like the same thing, and it's a much nicer conversation, because otherwise it's just, no, this is bad, and you go, no, I think it's bad this way, and so a lot of Twitter is just, and I think it's just, you have better conversations if you talk about the stuff you like. We all know there's bad stuff in the new ones. We know, I don't need to talk about it. I've seen it. I know it's bad. I want to talk about the cool stuff.
Well, it's kind of what people are used to, because every news media is about like the tragedies in the world, because that's what gets the clicks and whatnot. But no, I was just thinking because you're right about the fans too, and maybe for the connection to you. But the other thing I think too is like the hardcore fans, like that's how you know you're a hardcore fan, because you were upset about it, right? Because it's not how it should have been or whatever. Like those people are the people that think of themselves as hardcore fans. Yeah, I was just wondering if any of that trickled into your world at all.
No, most of the correspondence with me has been to try and get me to sign something. So I think it's not a great opener to be like, I hated the film you were in, but could you sign this?
I guarantee you people do that. I guarantee you people do
I thought
that.
it was useless. Why was Palpatine alive? Please sign this poster.
What they don't know is that it was your decision to bring Palpatine back to
Yeah,
life.
a lot of that film was just me chatting to JJ.
News.
I used to
Yeah.
I used to text him in the mornings being like, I've just seen the sides for today, mate, and I reckon she needs a yellow lightsaber. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh.
Man. So you've mentioned a lot of the projects that you've been working on. Have you noticed that it really is like the ability to move like from one project as one's wrapping up, that you're able to hop to another one because of the community you're in and maybe people working on similar things? Or what's the difference been between it continuing to be a hustle, which it always will be, but also like, you know, as long as there's stuff happening, I know I'm going to be on that list of people who get called up to at least audition, if not just like be there.
I think it's you kind of have a feeling when you get along with someone on a set, and that usually informs if you're going to get asked to come back, especially because puppetry is it's kind of a niche thing, and it's a specialist thing, and you know it's worth having training in it. So once you are trained up, you're kind of more reliable as a performer. But also you spend so much time in someone else's armpit that if you have a bad personality, you're not going to get the work. You know, if you're a misery to be around, even if you're amazing, people will still, in my experience, they'll hire someone worse who's better to talk to, because you don't want to spend your time with someone who's horrible. So I think, yeah, good attitude, being enthusiastic, and like talking to people and not just going to the green room and being on your phone and silent. Most of my work has come from someone saying, oh, actually, I've been thinking about I need a puppeteer for the next gig I'm on. Can I text you? And I'm like, yeah, here's my number. Like a lot of it is that kind of, you know, that contact stuff. And once you have one job and you meet two people, then you've got two other jobs, and then it kind of spreads like that. So yeah, I mean, it's always a hustle. You always have to be putting yourself out there and talking to people and staying engaged. But a lot of my, like, month to month, those months fill up, you know? They tend to, at least. You kind of go, oh, I've got nothing booked for next month. I'm going to starve. I'm not going to pay my rent. And then July the 1st, they go, oh, yeah, no, I will come on that film. Thank you very much.
Right. Well, and it's helpful, you know, it sounds like your personality already is someone who's, you know, outgoing and talking to people and making friends and stuff. So it's not a gear that you don't have to be able to, like, go and reach out and do that networking needed to you know, pay your rent in July.
Honestly, I think if it were any other context, I would never work. If it were anything other than puppetry, if it was like I have to talk to someone about any other topic, I would be back on my phone being like, oh no, I'm shy. But because I like puppets so much, as soon as someone wants to talk to me about puppetry, it doesn't matter who they are, I'm like, yeah, talk to me about puppetry. This is Nyla Fleece.
I learned this great thing about armature wire, and you gotta hear it.
And I'm gonna make you hear it, and you're gonna sit there and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have thick.
No, I think there's a lot of people listening who are like that, and I think Adam and I are kind of those people too, to a certain degree.
It's the only thing that connects our friendship in a lot of ways. He would have forgotten me long ago if I wasn't still building him puppets.
I think I'm just really I'm really lucky that I found so early on in my life exactly what I want to do forever. I think some people don't realize what they want to be until they're a bit older, and they've kind of been through a few different careers. But I worked in a bar once and then went, nope, puppets. And once I found that that's what I wanted to do, it's remained really obvious to me that is correct for me. So I've been very lucky in that way, I think.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that a lot too. But one thing I would just warn people of, I feel like some people put too much pressure on themselves into trying to find that thing that they want to do forever. Like, oh, I don't know what I want to do forever, right? And in a way, like, I see frustrations in that too, but you got to just try to look at it as an opportunity just to keep trying different things, because it can just not knowing what to do. I mean, I sometimes have the same anxiety with building something or designing something, right? It's like, oh, what's it gonna be? Sometimes it helps to have some kind of prompt to get started. So to start with your interests and then just dive into it. No, it's so amazing that you found it, and again, it's taken over your life in so many different ways, from a performer to a builder to wanting to start your own little puppet shop.
I'm glad I was hoping that we were going to talk about this next.
Yes, puppetthings.com. Check it out. Get your puppet supplies there.
Get your puppet things from my Puppet Things shop.
Get your puppet things. Yeah, it's so funny because when I first saw that name, I'm like,
boring, isn't it?
So good. It's so good.
No,
it's so good. At first I was like, what? I almost wanted to hate it for a second, just like for 1 second. I'm like, it's too no, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's because I think I always describe myself as a really boring person, and so I was like, what's the name of my shop that sells puppet things? Well, that's probably the name, isn't it? And that's why I put in the logo it has a full stop, because I thought, like, that's it. Is nothing at puppet things.
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, but you just because, especially you just mentioned like working in a bar, right? And in a way, working a puppet shop is like the puppet equivalent of working at a bar, in that you are much more so in the service industry, right, to some extent, and dealing with. I mean, it comes with a lot more. What would I call it? Maybe clerical style work than the performing and building itself would necessarily have. So, which is for people like us typically the whole other side of the brain, and why we don't, why we do art and not do that kind of stuff. So, can you talk a little bit about how that's been?
Well, luckily I've had a lot of free time recently to do clerical work. It came about because I was we were, the whole world shut down, and I was on my kitchen table. I was like, I'll just make some puppets then, whatever, just for me. And then I was like online, and I was like, oh god, fleece is so expensive. We've got to ship it all the way from America, and it's going to cost all this money. And then I thought, like, I kept googling, like, puppet fleece UK, Nyla fleece UK, Antron fleece UK, and I couldn't find anything. And so I just thought, I wonder how much, like. I wonder how much it would cost to just get like loads of it. And so I emailed Georgia Stage and was like, how much would I have to buy from you to get a deal? And they said 500 yards. And I went, huh, all right. And then I emailed
that's not how much that's on a roll though. So that's
many rolls.
I was gonna say there's like about 50 yards on a roll. Yeah,
so I got a hell of a lot. But so I emailed them, and they said, we'll do this much for this much. And so I thought, no one else is doing it. Maybe I'll just see what options are here. And then I emailed the small business loans company in the UK. It's like a government thing. And I said, is this the kind of thing that you fund? And they said, this is exactly the kind of thing that we give you a loan for, because it's a small business that you want to start. And so I got a whole chunk of money, and I got tons of fleece from America. And then I thought, well,
Literally.
I've got the fleece. I've got somewhere to store it. That's great, but it feels like it's a bit empty. It's a bit hollow just to have like, an Etsy or something, a fabric shop. And I thought, well, what else can I make? I'll make like eyes and stuff, or I could make some handles. I make my own rod handles with the thing I do, and I've got a 3D printer, so I'll get that involved. And I just started doing it, and I was talking to people, and it's like, if you're a puppet maker, what do you want? Like, what would make your life easier to just be able to buy, not have to build it yourself every time? And so it's all these things like, I don't want to have to glue rods into wood 100 times. I'd rather just buy it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then someone was like, it'd be great to just have different options of eyes just to put and see what's going on. And Furry Fingers do great eyes in the UK as well. So I knew that there was like a market there. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll do my own designs. I'll do some different styles and put them up. And then it just kept building. And then suddenly people were on my website shopping. And so it became like a thing. And I emailed Adam and said, I want to do a collaboration, because I don't like the idea of it just being my voice on the shop. I think part of the fun is like, let's get other people involved, doing some different designs. And what do you want to see in your practice, that I've missed or that I kind of don't do? Because we all have our preferences about how to build things. And, not every puppet can just be what Hugh Purves wants to build. It has to have some kind of like wider application. And so it just came, it's kind of doing more stuff. And every time I have an idea, it's kind of like a great avenue to kind of explore that idea. So I've got someone making puppet clothes, like tailored suits in puppet sizes, because puppets don't really have shoulders. So kind of using human patterns is a little bit funny. You have to tweak things. So, trousers with a big hole in the bum so you can get your hand in, like special puppet things like that, just to mix it up and like have a useful thing that is an actual asset rather than just like a cash grab. Because I don't make any money from it. Make no mistake, I don't make any money from it.
Yeah.
It pays for itself, but my profit margins are nothing. It pays the rent on the studio and nothing else. So like,
well, so one of the first thing I told you when we first met, I'm like, you're not charging enough for this stuff.
One day if I want to like hire someone to take over the shop, it might be like, sorry everyone, we're gonna have to raise the prices.
Really, what the benefit of having something like Puppet Things is being able to get all of your supplies in one shop, in one stop, like a one-stop shop.
And what I wanted to kind of, as this goes on, like, so we've got patterns on the site now. I wanted to start a bit more like, you could buy a book on how to make a puppet or some techniques, or you could, buy. We've obviously got the kits where you can sort of get everything you need to just make a puppet to your own specification. And I think it's just nice having that one place to get stuff. And one of the ideas I really want to start up a Puppet Things forum as part of the website, because what I really like is when people buy the stuff and then use it in a way that I completely didn't appreciate. Like, even as simple as Chris Kendall bought 2 sets of fangs from my teeth and use them as claws. I didn't think of that, but obviously you can use them as claws. And so, like,
right.
The idea of a Puppet Things like hack is really cool. I want someone to come to me like, I bought 3 sets of your horns and look, I've made this amazing marionette. Like, that kind of thing. It just really entertains me. Like, what you can do with the stuff that I haven't thought of. Ways you can use the fleece that I haven't thought of, or whatever.
That's one thing I like about your site too, is you have some different things on there. Like one of the first things that you sent me, we were talking about, was the Scraggle fleece, which I really like that a lot. I'm almost like saving it. Like, I almost am afraid to cut into it because I like it so much. Like, this has to be for the perfect project. That texture is just so cool.
Yeah, it's
I like that a lot. And just in talking to you, because we've had a lot of other meetings about business stuff before too. And one thing that you always seem to come around to is, which, I mean, it's going to sound obvious to a lot of people, but you can make a puppet out of anything, and there's more out there than the Nyla fleece and Antron fleece and other things. There's more out there than fleeces, right?
Yeah.
A puppet can really be made out of any type of material, and maybe using different materials can help get you your own look, which is something that a lot of people want to do, is have their own look. And if you're kind of cornering yourself, like again, like if you're building everything out of Legos, it's gonna look like a Lego, right? It's gonna look like a Lego character.
Well, and if every puppet builder is picking between one of two furs and they're all the same color,
Yes.
It's part.
you get locked into a look very, very quickly.
It's part of the reason the kits on Puppet Things are so confusing. Is because I didn't want to send everyone out the same thing. Yeah, I wanted them to have some customizability, so that's why it's like choose your fabrics and your features and your eyes and make it yourself. And like, when I saw Scraggle Fleece in a really weird fabric shop, my thought was like first like, oh, that would cover seams well, because that's the way I think about things now. And it's true. Like, if your goal is to make something that you can sew and not see a seam, which that classic puppet look, there are loads of things that can hide a seam. You know, loads of different fabrics that you can treat in a certain way. You know, I really like felting stuff. You like wool felt, which you can use to make any sort of texture and like hide your seams, quote unquote. But also, I'm doing some puppets at the moment for a musical out of leather, and you can't hide a seam in leather. So the patterning became, where am I going to put these seams that is artistic? And so, you know, tracing these different contours of the face and making it part of the expression of the actual puppet became part of the design. And I think, you know, it's great that everyone wants to get that Muppet look. If I could be so brash as just describe something as having a Muppet look. But there are a million ways to make a puppet. And the fact that Jim Henson kind of created this incredible, like, look for his cast and crew is a testament to his own genius. But actually, if that becomes ubiquitous to every puppet, then it's, you know, it's a bit of a shame. You know, you want to see some individual artist voices.
And people forget too that, you know, he flexed himself too, right? You look at just like what we were talking about before, Dark Crystal. I mean, how farther away can you really get from the Muppets with still being a puppet? It's Dark Crystal, right? So I think he even saw that in his own work, and so many people are just trying to emulate what he does. And I mean, look at me to an extent too, right? But on the other hand, too, client calls, you give them what they want, right? That's how your work sometimes can look repetitive because people kind of become known for something, at least in the client's eyes, which can be a little bit of a trap for some people. But
that's why,
like even me, I got a project coming up soon where I'm going to be building a marionette for somebody, which I'm really excited about. It's flexing.
That's a different muscle. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
I was literally just saying that it's flexing a different muscle, one that I haven't flexed in a while. But I learned under Jim Rose. I took one of his classes before, which makes me far from an expert, but probably the best place to start, right? Learning the foundations. And I'm really excited about that because it's something I've been meaning to do for myself. I've got a half-built marionette that I started like 5 years ago, and I just haven't. Every year I'm like, I'm going to do it this next January, and then like the year,
something explodes,
and then something explodes.
A sneak peek.
Sneak
peek to the Puppet Things future. Later this year, hopefully, we'll be releasing our Marionette Controls.
Oh really? Oh great! What kind of controls are there?
So it's the plan is to build off of the Little Angel Theatre in Islington has, John Wright had kind of created these really cool marionette controls, and that's how I learned. Is like a certain kind of style. I don't know how common it is. I think different cultures have different things, but my plan is to make a kind of modular kit system. So depending on what the marionette needs to do, you can kind of snap together a control, almost like a Nintendo Labo thing, or you get those like kids programming toy robots where you can kind of and make it do different things.
Yeah,
that's I've currently got lots of weird little prototypes in my studio. I'd love to be able to get a system together where you can just kind of like clip it together and this marionette is done.
Or clip it in different ways, especially because, I mean, that's one thing that seems like many marionettes are kind of known for is being able to do like a trick, right? Mm-hmm. Some sort of a gag or something. Not always, but many of them have some sort of costume change or, again, a trick that they do. And being able to incorporate, because, again, that's one thing. I want to get more back into that, too, about what makes you different than other puppet shops is your innovation that you really tend to have in the way that you create things and think about things, like you were talking about with those arm rods. And you sent them to me. They're so interesting. They're 3D printed handles that slide apart, and they're modular, so you can make your arm rods at different heights. Like, I saw this thing, I'm just like, what a way. I mean this as a compliment, but to overcomplicate one of the most simple things in the world. It's like wanting to upgrade a spoon. It's like, let's put a motor on it. Like, what? It's like a spoon. But like, yeah, it's like so many features that I never even would have thought that would have been a convenience or something like that. And it just seems the way that you work. Your mind works.
I hate waiting for glue. I hate it. So when I used to have to stick a bit of wire into some wood and wait for some glue I hated it. So I thought, I'll just clip it on.
Yeah.
It's something I really like playing with, is stretching the limits of what a puppet is. Like when I made this guy.
Yes. Oh, I was just gonna bring that up.
This
is guys, everyone, brace yourself. If you're listening to the audio, switch to the video now. You're not gonna want to miss this. This is awesome.
It's my first time doing one of these, so let me tell you about myself. I like sad films, and I hate fascists.
With technology nowadays, what could you do in a puppet to make it kind of completely novel? And I knew that, like, the idea of putting lights into a puppet's head wasn't new, because I built a puppet last year sometime that had lights, and the way its lip sync worked was that you'd pull a trigger and the lights would move around the mouth like it was a robot. And then I thought, well, the next logical step is, like, rather than having LED lights, let's just have a screen and change what's on the screen. And that's literally the thought process. I was like, that'd be cool. And then I did it with a bit of help from my brother with some of the learning how to code. But it's just the screen inside the head. You program in the pupils, get them in the right places, and then it's programmed like a game. So you move a joystick and it moves left and right, almost like animatronics do. But the good thing about having a screen is that you can put anything on it. So he's got a little gimmick where he sneezes and it all comes on the screen, and the windscreen wipers come, or like the blinks of that, and different expressions are all on the screen. So you don't have to worry about really any animatronics or moving parts. Everything's in there.
It reminds me almost of like Looney Tunes, when they see like a big bag of money and their eyes turn into the dollar
signs,
symbols and stuff. Like, you can do stuff like that.
And someone said to me, like, oh, why didn't you just pre-program an animation? Which is certainly you could do, and that might work for a lot of things. But what makes it a puppet for me is that I can do it all live. So I can improv it, and I can new expressions. I'll get that timing exactly right to make a joke land. And I think with that kind of system, it's completely customizable. So he is just a square with a screen in his head, but the next iteration of this is spoilers, is much more complicated and interesting, with flexible screens that do other shit. But it was also completely silent. Doesn't make any noise at all, which, if you are working on a set with animatronics and you're close to a puppet, all you can hear is
all the servos and stuff.
But this is it's completely silent, and you can control it from it's just a wireless Xbox controller that controls him. So you can control it from anywhere, and you can be on a monitor, you can be next to the puppet, you can be doing it yourself. I've got like a one-handed version that I 3D printed. So it's I think it's a cool idea.
I can't remember if this was what you actually did with this one, or if this was an idea. Is that an actual screen in there, or is that just your phone?
It's a screen.
Okay. Oh, it is a full screen.
So you can see it's all bolted into a little plate. That's just it's the simplest mouth plate in the world in there for that. Because another version of this could have the mouth be animated as well, but I didn't have the budget for two screens.
I thought we were talking, and maybe I'm just wrong, but I thought we were talking about you're trying to come up with an idea to make it work with a phone, where you can just kind of like slide your phone into the slot where the
I was
eyes
talking
would be,
to
and then that
a
way...
ventriloquist who wanted a slightly more portable version. But yeah, and then this is just the Raspberry Pi that controls it. But the software could absolutely. I mean, what is a phone except a computer? So, and you can connect phones to anything nowadays. Well, the technology is amazing. So yeah, put a little controller into your phone with whatever way, and then you've got yourself. That's a bit more sophisticated coding than I have at this point. I don't know how to put something on a phone, but the idea is cool, I think, and I think I'd love to see.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll put a caveat on this. I'd love to see more people doing something like it after I've made millions doing it myself. You know, just let me do it. Let me do it first, and then, I'll release it to the world.
Right. You'll put it on puppetthings.com, and people could download the program that you
Well,
developed.
no, if I put it on
at a hefty
if I
fee.
put it on puppetthings.com, I'd charge 50p for it, and Adam would be annoyed at me.
I would, yeah. And I'd buy them all. I'd buy all of them and resell them for like 4 times as much instead.
But I when Adam sent me this video, I mean it's just completely ingenious, and it was like, I mean, I don't remember a time seeing Jim Henson stuff for the first time necessarily, but I do remember the first time I saw his stuff from the Ed Sullivan Show, and it was so experimental, and he was trying out all these things, and it was like, that is just so freaking creative. And when I saw this, I had that same kind of feeling. When you were making this, I imagine it was sort of as a proof of concept, like to see if you could even do it. Is that right?
Yeah, it was just a toy to see what would happen, or like how it would go. And I've actually got a few little corporate gigs off it as well, because some people kind of liked the idea of it, and I had like the corporate logo flash up on the eyes. Like, welcome to the Pfizer Christmas party. Like
Pfizer. Oh my god. No, the other thing is too, like, I think you were even mentioning it last time we talked about it, is like for that one it's the eyes, but you could have it be the mouth. It could be a moving visual mouth. It could be anything.
So the next version of
anything.
it is 2 separate eyes and a mouth, all on the same controller. So there's like an interesting kind of question of how to do the lip sync with some expressions. But I was taking some cues in my kind of design phase of it. Daisy Beatty is a puppeteer and did the Charmin Bear. Did the lip sync for that, and it was kind of a really. I think some other people may have done it on another thing, but she did this like the mouth opening and closing was normal in this like glove, but the plosives and the different expressions were like, if you move your hand this way in this glove, the lips went and if you went up or if you held it up, it was doing different things. If you flicked it out, and she was it was almost conducting when you watched her puppeteer it. She was kind of flicking her hand around in this behind the scenes video and getting all these different expressions. And I think it'd be nice to get some element of that in. Like, you can do the lip sync just normally, but then with one hand you can kind of get some expressions in, and then the other hand has the eyes and the animations, and maybe have a third person or a second person rather do some other stuff. Combine it with some flashy LED lights and some antenna, and you got yourself a puppet, friend.
No, that's so great. Yeah, really. I mean, just ingenious stuff, and like when you're building that, I'm sure you're trying to like get it up on its feet, but there's also got to be an element of like, as you're working on it, you're like, oh, this is gonna work, and I'm already thinking about how I'm gonna apply it on the next thing. Like, that's just got to be so exciting when you're in your shop.
Well,
and making
it's
that
very
happen.
dangerous though, because you then start working on the next thing before you finish that thing. That happens to me all the time.
Before you've worked out all the bugs.
I'll build a puppet head,
Yeah.
and then that's done. Oh, do you want to be good on the next one? I'll do that, and then I just won't make the body. I've got a lot of heads, so I've gone like, oh, cool, done that. Next, and then like, oh, I should probably finish that puppet at some point. I remember I watched Phil Fletcher's video with you where he talks about he hates making hands. I'm very much the same.
Yes.
It's awful.
I think if you don't hate making hands, you're a monster. There's something off about you. Yes. Oh my
Well,
God.
and I think he even added to that, saying like, once you're done with the head, everything else is crap. Like,
That's true.
You don't need anything but the puppet head.
Yeah. So I can only make heads. That's right. He was saying that.
That's the thing.
Oh my gosh.
You want to hire staff. You do the head and then just give it to someone else, let them finish it. I need to do a clear out of my workshop, and I was gonna do like a kind of raffle thing on my Instagram of like, just if you want a head, I'll give you the head and the fabric that would match it, because I don't want it in my eyes anymore. You just take it.
Yeah.
So maybe follow me on Instagram for that incredible opportunity coming up later, where I get rid of all the shit in my workshop.
Oh yeah, definitely check out
That's-
his Instagram.
yeah.
It's always you'll see the craziest things on there, puppet wise. Like I told you, the innovative mind that you have. It's always something different, which is really really fun to follow. But the other thing I was wondering, I'm not even sure about this. Is your studio at home, or do you have a shop separate?
I've got
or both.
I try not to work at home because it's very messy. So I've got a separate place in Elephant and Castle, which is just got down the road, and that's where this puppet thing storeroom is as well. It's in the same building. If you ever see me work there, you'll see me go to like put my door on the handle of the storeroom and then look at my filthy body and go, no, can't go in there. Kind of like have to go wash my hands.
Like,
Yeah.
just looking behind you, can see it's trickled into your house a little bit.
Oh yeah, these are the ones I just have in my house, because there's not enough room to store them in the workshop. So these are just the ones I had on hand. So there's Bernie. This is a hat, but it has puppet eyes on, so that's fun. This is the first puppet I ever made.
It's fun. Really?
This little guy here.
Nice.
This is Griff the Sheep, who I quite like as a little character. This was when I was in a phase of I want to make
great.
the smallest puppet I possibly can that still fits on my hand. So he's absolutely the smallest thing I could make and still be able to perform, and I just think he's cute.
Yeah, I love small puppets. I remember, I didn't even realize I loved it. I remember one time, I think it was at the O'Neill's talking to Jake Bazell. He's like, he loves tiny puppets too. The smallest puppet you
Yeah.
can get your hand, and there's something about it. Well, not to mention the convenience if you're actually going to bring it around places or
Yeah.
fly with it. It's super handy too. But yeah, something about having a small puppet. So many people, I feel like a lot of people, we've talked a little bit about this. New puppet builders tend to make
They're
their puppets
massive, and they're
humongous,
really
right?
thick foam. I've seen.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like they've ripped it out of a chair and
yeah.
turned it into a puppet. And I think it's, you use what you can, but you almost want to go like, oh, make it easy for yourself. Thin foam. It doesn't have to be nearly as thick as you
I'll
think.
tell you. And theater people, because especially soon after Avenue Q was being done by regional or local theaters, every prop builder did their own puppets, and they just make them like literally bigger than human size. They're humongous. And I see people are like, oh, we used your patterns, but we blew them up by 200%. I'm like, why? Like they were sized perfectly for
These
that.
huge,
Oh my
big
gosh.
puppet shoulders that kind of dominate the stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, shoulders. Yeah, big puppet shoulders
Right, I
is
think-
an interesting.
I like,
one.
you see, you get 3 puppets in before you make a good one, I think. You've got to make 2.
At least.
Oh,
You've got to make 2 really bad puppets, and then you make a third one. And you go, yeah, I've got it now. But
That's right,
I
yeah.
started making theatrical
Oh my
puppets, so like Bunraku style, so not flappy mouth ones at all. Very somber faced Victorian children puppets. So a lot of my like size sensibilities come from that, because if you make them too big, they're made out of wood. Then
Oh my
so
gosh.
you kind of small little
Yeah.
delicate things.
Is that how you know Katie Williams? Because that's how we were first introduced, because we had Katie Williams on the podcast. Oh gosh, when we first started, like what, episode
was like
6
the
or
6th
something?
episode, yeah.
Something like that. And then we connected, and How did you start working with her at all? on
The
project?
first time I met her, she was doing a bit of work in someone else's studio that I had just finished doing work in. So we kind of had that crossover. And then she also did the Cura School of Puppetry on a later year. And then the only time we've worked together was on an advert a couple of years ago, and then on a music video for Coldplay with Jimmy Grimes and Brunskin and Grimes, and we were both working in that studio. But we've kind of been chatting because she was brought on, I think, as a maker, or I think a prop maker for his Dark Materials, and I was brought on as puppet captain. But we both ended up not working on it, but we had a lot of phone calls about it. So we kind of talked through that. But the first time we worked together properly was on this advert for a train company. No, she's cool. She's back in Australia now. She's doing some cool stuff in Adelaide.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no, I
nice.
follow her Instagram too, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the stuff is just so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it really. Well, and that Coldplay video was just
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
stellar. I mean, oh my gosh, it was
So
really
that was all
beautiful.
green suits and kind of theatrical style puppetry. I had to sew some teeny tiny jeans. That's the thing. I got pigeonholed. Not pigeonholed, but a lot of puppet makers know I can sew, and so make me sew for them. It's terrible. Don't let anyone know you can sew, because they'll make you sew.
That's exactly what they do. Well, one question I have for you, because I think you've, unless I just haven't come across it yet, do you plan on producing more of your own personal work as far as videos and whatnot? Because I loved that mini advert that you made for Puppet Things. It was hysterical.
I really like producing and kind of writing / directing puppetry. So I'm working on a few things at the moment. They kind of happened more robustly during COVID because I had some more time to be on my laptop and writing. So I'm trying to get a puppet show up. I've got a kid show and a slightly less kid show. And I always come up with sketch ideas as well. It's funny, it's like you're walking down the street, like, oh, it wouldn't be funny if a puppet said this, and I'll write it on the notes on my phone. Yeah, I'd love to. I think that's the next step for me. What I want to do in my career is start producing my own stuff. So not just coming on as a performer in someone else's thing, is to kind of be that creative lead on a puppet project. So I'm hoping that, eventually some, a music video or commercial or whatever it is, just kind of get that, experience under until I start working on some bigger things, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, and because for a lot of people, that's kind of what opens the door a lot of time for their opportunity to be part of someone else's stuff. I mean, how else are they going to know that you do puppetry unless you're doing puppetry, right? Yeah. And other than, of course, going to a call or something, right? Audition.
I've never got an audition and got it. I've never.
Oh.
No, I tell a lie. I've done one audition and got the part, but I really don't shine on auditions.
That's not something people usually brag about.
Most of the jobs I do, I get offered from having done another job, but I'm useless in auditions. Yeah.
Oh no, auditions. We always talk. We have a whole. If you look at the episode we did with Tyler Bunch, it is pretty much a master class on auditioning. I highly recommend check out that episode. It was 2 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
We have to have him back on too. It's so great. But oh my gosh, like auditioning is just like. I'm the same thing. Yeah, I'm the worst in an audition, and it's just like, oh God, there's so much pressure, and you just kind of tend to forget that, like, especially if it's run by a good company, like they want you to be good, but you always feel this pressure, right? That like, they think I'm terrible.
They're looking to poke holes in every single thing you do.
Yeah, trying to poke holes.
But I think I'm a very, very cynical person. So although I'm like, I tend to be in a good mood, I'm really, really cynical. So if I'm in like an audition, and a lot of auditions are kind of like group auditions with other people, but if I see someone like really enthusiastically like, oh my God, I love the piece, it's so amazing, and I can't compete with that. I can't compete with someone being enthusiastic and loving the piece and getting on with the director. Yeah. I'm too miserable. I just go, oh, it's fine, we're all fine, we're all just doing a job, let's just do the job. And then so it's not a brag. Please don't ask me to audition for you. Just give me the part. Thank you very much.
That's a good strategy for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, and this is something when you were talking about the Coldplay shoot, it got me thinking. You do so many different styles of puppetry performance. Have you had instances where you forget to code switch in that way of like, oh, I'm doing the really precise Skeksis characters or Gelfling or something, but I'm doing it with the Muppet energy. Or all of a sudden you're bringing like your Bunraku, like soft touch, and it's not reading when you're performing a marionette or any of those types of things.
I think when I was learning puppetry at the Curious School, I was very much at every single point trying not to fix anything in my head. So for me, every single kind of puppetry is exactly the same as every other kind, which a lot of people disagree with and get annoyed at me when I say that. But I think everything is exactly the same. It's moving something in a way that makes it look like it's alive. It's performing a character, but it just so happens that instead of moving your face around to perform a character, you're doing this with your fingers. So doing this puppet on this shoot recently where I'm doing the lip sync with my elbow, I was still it was just, instead of doing things with my wrist, I was having to do it with my entire upper half to get like expression. And I think once you start performing puppetry with a view of like, just it's completely irrelevant what my actual fingers are doing or my body is doing, you just have to feel it and kind of like do it. I think I can't recommend enough puppeteers learning every single kind of style and practicing on it and doing the same action with 3 different kinds of puppets, and you'll realize that, oh, it's all exactly the same. It's all just performing but outside of your body. So code switching wise, no. In terms of performing something with the wrong energy, yes, I do that all the time. I do that. That's like, I think, this is a great opportunity for a joke. No, it's not. The director does not think so, and nor does anyone else. Stop it. So, yeah. But, I mean, to be a puppeteer, you kind of have to be an actor as well. You have to be all sorts of other things. You learn what's appropriate for the scene in a way that you would if you were an actor. You kind of just have to remember to behave yourself, which is a difficult lesson.
Yeah. There's got to be a lot of directors out there who
when
really regret that anyone ever put bloopers as DVD extras, because it gives people the idea that they could just like, goof off on set, and it's like, no, time is money, people.
Yeah, time is definitely money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's fun.
Definitely.
At the end of the, if you're a puppeteer, you are essentially playing with toys. And I think if you forget that, even if you're doing quite a serious scene, you have to remember that, like, it's a bit silly at the end of the day. Don't take yourself too seriously.
I'm sewn into a couch. This is
let's
unreal.
Let's all just be a bit happier. Like, we're having a nice time. We're on a film set. It's Hollywood. Come on. I know we all got up at 4 a.m. It's funny. We're all miserable and tired, but let's just kind of, jolly ourselves up a bit. But today I had to do a whole like emotional monologue as part of the sitcom, so that was a nice moment of pathos. I almost didn't want to do it in rehearsal. I wanted to wait until the puppet was on, to kind of like, because it completely just brought the tone down, which was the point of the scene. It was like, sitcom, having a nice time, and then, it was literally a Marlon Brando Apocalypse Now speech to camera. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, do you have a hard time
on to the next
when you're doing
scene.
a full body character like that? It's got to be hard to even rehearse as the thing. I know for me, I'm so fed by the physicality of the puppet and having that on, and especially that you were describing just how physical it was, like to be on a stage where you're just doing this without the puppet on and expected to, just read your lines or rehearse. It's got to be strange.
I kind of just act it. I think, like I said, because everything is exactly the same as everything else, if you're acting a part, it's the same as doing, the puppet later. You're just doing different things with your arms. So I tend to just kind of, if I'm rehearsing it, unless I need to do it in the suit to, clock where things are, because you can't really see anything, like, for safety reasons, or just to get the kind of, count the steps to where I'm going kind of thing. But I just act it. And I'm happy to just kind of act it, and I know that it's going to translate to the puppetry bit later. When you're working on a puppet by yourself, rehearsal is, it's kind of a, it's not like unnecessary, but it's certainly.
Well, it's hard though too, because sometimes things can feel over rehearsed, right? And it gets too stiff. So you like having that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That freedom, because when you're working on a puppet with other people, you got to rehearse because you got to be on the same page as everyone else. But if you're by yourself, you just
if it sucks, I'll just do another take. It'll be good, and I'll tell everyone it was my first take. No, I wouldn't do that.
And you just gotta like, I don't like saying the words in the script either. I'm never gonna work after this interview. But sometimes you'd be like, oh, it just felt wrong to say that word, so I changed it, and then some writers are really cool with that and go, yeah, it worked much better. And some writers go, actually, the word was massive and you said enormous. So I don't know where that came from, Hugh. Oh, sorry, Tony. I'll do it again. But yeah, I think a bit of lightness, even if you're doing really sad scenes, you've got to approach things with lightness, because if you take yourself too seriously, you just end up spiraling downwards into misery.
Yeah.
Oh, I like puppets, man. They're so good. They're just so good. You can tell me so many stories with them. Like, happiness, sadness, everything's heightened with a puppet. I think when an audience watches a puppet, anything they give to it, they get back 10 times. So if they're sitting there, like, ready to accept a sad scene, they'll get a 10 times sadder scene and a more profound scene with a puppet than with a human. I'm sick of looking at humans. I've seen them. I see them every day. Give me a puppet.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I talk about a lot when everyone, lets me talk at them, is that, in a way, a puppet is way more truthful as a performer than an actor. Because when a puppet is doing its thing, that's the only time it's alive. It only exists as that character. Whereas an actor kind of, finishes his take and calls his mum and has a cup of tea and, like, isn't real in the same way that, like, a puppet is only that character. It doesn't have a life outside of that moment of performance, which I really dig.
No,
I think that's nifty as hell.
I completely agree, and I think that's
that's why I like it.
And this is getting sort of into a geeky place, but, like, sometimes I think it's strange when puppets do improv, because then it's not that thing anymore, because it's the puppet saying, like, oh, in the scene, I'm Abraham Lincoln, or or whatever, and it's like, well, no, you're a monster, and it's a weird degree of separation, that just does not feel like truth to form in the same way than if you actually had an Abraham Lincoln.
That's
puppet.
a good point. It takes away the point of kind of using a puppet.
Using the doll.
Yeah.
It's definitely true that a puppet has something that an actor just will never have, and it's a kind of a truthful. I mean, the reason puppets were invented thousands of years ago is because people didn't want to hear moral tales from other people, and so they invented these caricatures of the gods to tell people, do stuff, live well, wash your hands, whatever they were telling them. And so, puppets have always had this power to say something to a person that a person simply couldn't. Punch and Judy, back in its original form, was this kind of, like, scandalous, anti-governmental thing. And, like, so many, uprisings have had their stories told through puppetry. So in Czechoslovakia, the language reclamation in Czechoslovakia, a lot of it was through the, puppet theatre. Because puppets could speak Czech, whereas actors were meant to speak proper languages like Russian. But people wanted to speak their own home language, and Guignol in France could say, like, I'm a factory worker and I think we should all be paid more and unite. Yeah. Whereas if a person said that, they'd be beaten up by the factory owners. So it's all these, like, different things. Like, puppets always have a power to be inherently political and kind of challenge the system and challenge expectations in an almost harmless, fun way. A valuable way, but a way that doesn't inspire people to hate the person, because it's just a puppet that said it. It's true, but it's just a puppet.
All puppeteers know it. It's a little bit of a secret. People who don't know it. I mean, you can get away with a lot. You can say anything if you got a puppet on.
Yeah.
You can get away with a lot.
Even if your face is completely visible, if there's a puppet here.
I just remember I always when I was interviewing for jobs as a school teacher, I'd bring a puppet. And I'll tell you that if you're a school teacher and you bring a puppet, you're going to be remembered at bare minimum, because you're going to be, remember the person who brought the puppet, right? And I had Lily, the frog with the pink or the blonde ponytail, and then, like, oh my gosh, I was just teasing the principal, like, in a playful way too, but they loved it too. And, like, you could not have said that if it was just a regular interview or just trying to joke around. Like, you can really get away with anything with a puppet. It's remarkable.
Totally can.
Yeah.
I think it's that they're such powerful things, and they look like toys. They look like stuffed toys, but they just have a weight to them that you can They're so cool. The idea that you put a sock on your hand and suddenly you're, a union leader or a, anti-capitalist fucking protester.
Yeah.
It's just,
It can be
cool as
anything.
hell. If you put a puppet on your hand, you're automatically a political dissident, and that's fun.
Yeah.
That's just fun.
Right.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Hugh, this has just been absolutely wonderful getting to talk to you. As we start to wrap up, though, wondering if you have a good puppeteer story of a time when things didn't go right on set or in your workshop that you wanted to pull your hair out, but now we could have a good laugh.
Oh, I have the worst moment of my entire life. Yeah, I can relate that. It was on Dark Crystal. It was one of the later episodes where I was assisting Ollie Taylor in The Scientist. So when you're assisting in a skexis, you are very much in an armpit, in the suit, like all scrunched up, and you have your hand here, and you have to do stuff, and you have a little the main puppeteer has their monitor there, and you kind of have to peek at the edge of it just to see it. And so we were doing this scene where the scientist has to pour water into the hunter's mouth, essence into the hunter's mouth. And so I was a live hand in a skexis. The only time that I think maybe there's another time, but very rarely do you see a live hand in a skexis. And it was really tight glove. I can't feel my fingers, and I've got this jug of water, and it's got this curve, so that in order to get any water out at all, your hand has to be completely upside down. So already I'm doing that, and then I'm doing it. The hunter's really far away, and I'm at the full stretch of my arm, because I don't want to tip Ollie over in the suit to try and get it in the mouth, and I'm having to triangulate between two cameras where this mouth is, and I couldn't. It was the baking hot summer day, and I just could not pour it into the mouth. It just kept missing. It's dribbling down the side. Everyone's getting frustrated. Everyone's hot inside their own skexis. Everyone's milling around, and I'm just there trying to do it. And it's take after take after take, and I could tell Ollie was being really nice about it, but I could tell he was getting annoyed. I was getting annoyed. The director was getting annoyed and giving different notes, and I was frustrated. What's going on? What's happening? Who is he talking about? Is that me? Is that my cue? Come on. And then Ollie was like, why don't you just kind of eyeball it? So just take a little peek out of the suit. And I was like, oh, good idea. So I got this hand here, just one eye out. It's a bit better, but I've still got no depth perception because it's just one eye, and I was at full stretch, and I kind of did it, and it worked, and I was there, and I put the bottle down. It's the rest of the scene, and I was just peeking out here, and then I kind of looked slightly to my right, and all I could see was a camera lens right in front of where my eye was peeking out, and I kind of, closed that little window, and it's hopefully they didn't see that. And it's cut. All right, shall we do it again then? Just take after take after take, sweating buckets in Ollie Taylor's armpit, and I think we didn't get it. I think we were in there for ages, and I don't think we actually got the shot. I can't remember what, in the show they kind of cut together two different things and it kind of worked, but the shot that he wanted, I just don't think we got. And I think it was moving on, time is money. And I remember coming out of the suit just sweat dripping down my face. Everyone was miserable, and I was hanging my head. And then Claire Harvey, who was on set that day, just looked at me and went, that looked like it was quite difficult. Yeah.
Can't they just CG in the water in post?
Oh my gosh! No, that's stressful too in a lot of ways. Oh my gosh!
But it was a difficult moment, and I didn't assist Ollie again after that. I don't know if it's a coincidence or by design.
Well, that's true too. It just reminds me that, especially as the puppet builder, when you need a puppet to do something specific, so many people want to try to save money and have one puppet that does everything, right? And I'm such a huge advocate for making multiples to do. I mean, sometimes they used to build an entire puppet just for one shot of one angle of a shot for all types of different movies and stuff. You look at Sesame Street, they've got the animatronic Elmo that's on the scooter, and they've got, there's probably 10 Elmos, right? That kind of have different the ones with the blinking eyes and this and that. Because he's got eyelids sometimes, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it sounded like a moment where they almost would have needed to create like a more of a rig to be able to get that effect in a more simple and fluid way.
Just have a wild arm.
yeah, exactly.
It was good. On Dark Crystal, so many of the shots were like the camera
Right,
was
yeah.
moving between the puppets, and that's what made it such a cool show to see. Like really dynamic shots.
Makes it a
But
nightmare to perform.
if you were, middle of a summer day, full stretch on your arm, kind of upset and scared that you are making everyone late, it's very, very stressful. But yeah, I mean, I still got other days of work after that, so hopefully it's not too bad.
That's so crazy. But what's the best way for people to follow your work?
Instagram is probably my most updated, so that's HP Makes, so my initials and then the word make. So I think if you type Hugh Purves, you'll probably find it. I do have a website, hughpurves.com. That occasionally gets updated, mostly with kind of like little, featured puppets, I call them, or just recent things I've done that I think are kind of cool. I do have a Twitter. I occasionally tweet, but not very often. Or puppetthings.co.uk, puppetthings.com. There's an email on there if you have like a specifically puppet supplies related thing. I'm fairly amenable to emails, and I say this to everyone: like, if you want free stuff, just ask me and I'll probably give it to you.
Let me know
Careful
when
what you wish
that.
for.
Yeah, careful
Like,
what you wish for. And Puppet Things also has their own Instagram too. Yes.
Yes, that we
Wow.
do puppet things on Instagram. But as a caveat, like, there's so often you need like a little bit of fur to do an eyelid or a nose. Just I'm happy to throw that in. Or if you're nice, I'll probably give you 3. If I'm in a good mood and I'm packing an order, I occasionally just throw in an extra thing. But if you're not nice to me, then I'll make sure that your order is late and everything's bad. So
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So be aware. If you send me a sarky email,
Yes.
you're not getting the good fur.
All right. Well, yeah, Hugh, this was wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on, bud.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Until
Wonderful.
the next time, Cam, you can
got it.
schedule me on.
We're at the end of another episode of Puppeteers, but the fun doesn't stop here.
Visit puppeteers.com for show notes and links to projects mentioned in this episode.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuppeteersPod, where we're posting new things every day.
Puppeteers is edited by Matt Bowen and made possible thanks to viewers like you.
If you enjoy this content, you can join our incredible Patreon patrons who are supporting the show for as little as $1 per episode. Those folks get access to early releases, uncut episodes, official Cup O tiers just like we use on the show, and could even submit interview questions for our guests. Go to patreon.com/puppeteerspod to learn more.
Another great way to support Puppeteers is rating and reviewing us on iTunes, leaving a comment or subscribing to this channel, or tell a friend about your favorite episode.
Thanks again for joining us on Puppeteers Puppetry Shop Talk, in-depth interviews with the world's most passionate puppeteers.
Hosted by me, Adam Krutinger.
And me, Cameron Garrity. It's gonna be awesome. All right, are you ready, bud?
I'm never ready. But I'm going to start anyway. It's like the Hulk, right? It's like, I'm always angry. Is that what it was? Is that the line? It's something. Why? I don't even remember why.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. That's
yeah.
my secret too. It's not, but
I'm
not with
never
anger, just like with everything else. I empathize with that moment a lot.